We are live, back at it again. Episode number 11. We're past double digits now for Boys Bet Ball. So back at it. My name is Mike. You can follow me on my X, Nico_Riggs. And then you have Spencer, which I keep on trying to convince him to get next, but he just doesn't want to. He's not a big social media guy. So
yeah, no, I've considered it. I mean, like you said, it's the fastest way to get news and all these tweets. Like, well, we're gonna talk about NFL MVP, and I was just scouring, trying to find more data to support my thesis to convince me to hold my position. I know X has all of those tweets.
Well, the thing too is like you literally sometimes send me X posts. I'm like, how are you like seeing this without like?
You can still access like some if you like they just pop up, but like to go find tweets, yeah, X has like cracked down on it. You used to be able to just roam Twitter or X like without even an account pretty easily, and Elon shut that down. So,
but yeah, maybe this week we forget one like on the video. Spencer will get an X account. Let's shoot for it. But anyway, we have a full slate of stuff we want to talk about. Big stuff happening in the NFL, obviously. College football playoffs, full swing. We're heading into the semifinals. Winner of these two games, the Peach Bowl and the Fiesta Bowl, are going to the Natty, and it didn't go out as how I expected it at all. And of course, we got NBA as well. We want to do a standings update, other stuff with that, trade deadline as well approaching since it's currently January. Happy New Year. It's crazy. That's 2026. It's like we're closer to 2050 than we are to 2000, which still boggles my mind. And yeah, I guess we can go ahead and start off with it. You talked about MVP. Maybe we can do MVP or maybe week 18 reaction first and then go into MVP. But week 18 reaction, let's start off with that. A lot of teams were resting their players. Some were trying to secure playoff seeding. But there's some really good games and there's some really bad games. And there's some games. Week 18 could be very profitable for betting. Like a lot of variance. I got screwed over on one, but another one I tripled down on and it ended up working out for me. So, but it can be very profitable with week 18, even though, half the league probably isn't really playing for anything.
Yeah, most definitely. Do we want to, just kick it off for the Saturday games? The NFL, every single week 18 game is a flex game. They just decide on which games they're going to nationally broadcast based off of, the stakes involved. And going into it, they decided to put Panthers versus Buccaneers hosting the Panthers. That's the early Saturday game. Bucks, unfortunately, did not control their own destiny in this game because our MVP, Matt Stafford, had a little hiccup on Monday night, losing to the Falcons. So even if the Bucks won, they would not control their own destiny. It would go down to Atlanta versus New Orleans, and the Panthers would be fans of the Falcons, Buccaneers fans of the Saints. And the Buccaneers won, but did not cover the 3.5 point spread, winning 16-14.
Yeah, and if you listen to us, I personally went. I feel like I'm hearing a little bit of echo. Anyway, if you listen to kind of what we were saying, I think Spencer might have said money line, but I said take the points, 3 points with the Panthers. Honestly, it was pretty lucky because I'd say the Bucks definitely dominated the majority of that game, but a backdoor cover happened. They were able to get a last-second touchdown to make it close, and if you got the +3, then you won. And then on top of that, we'll go into the Seahawks-Niners game. That one was a dominant display of the Seahawks D pause right there. And hate to see it if you're a Niners fan, especially with that offensive performance you had last week against Chicago. But yeah, nothing really going for the Niners on that one, and we picked Seahawks money line on that, so 2 for 2 on Saturday.
Yeah, I mean, the Seahawks, they dominated. 49ers did have a chance. They were in it in the fourth quarter, marched down the field, and then just an unfortunate interception, not really on Brock Purdy per se, throwing it to Christian McCaffrey. Ball kind of just maybe a little not on the money and kind of hit McCaffrey's hands. And just on the sideline, just a quick interception that just, flipped the game from possibly being I guess it was 10-3. They could have tied the game.
Yeah, and I think I want to say, I can't remember if the 2-minute warning already happened or not. So I don't know if they would have had to kick an onside kick. No, I think they had all 3 timeouts though, right? I can't remember honestly, but
yeah, not entirely sure, but just unfortunate. I don't think it puts a nail in the 49ers season in terms of being a contender, still being in the game for most of the game, even though their offense really couldn't get started. They were missing Trent Williams, their star left tackle. He should be ready to go. Hopefully should be ready to go next week against the Eagles, but that will be a big tell on how well they can, stack up against Philadelphia Eagles.
Yeah, I think the big concern, if you're a Seahawk fan, you're pretty happy right now. Obviously, you get the number 1 seed in the NFC, including the bye, so you go straight to the divisional round. But on top of that, Seahawks look dominant against a very good 49ers team in Santa Clara. Like I said, 49ers, their offense is formidable. Like, they're good. Their offense is top tier in the league. I think Kyle Shanahan is up there. If he would have won this game, I think he would have solidified himself as coach of the year. But it looks like Mike Vrabel is going to take it this year. The one concern I have for the 49ers, you have Trent Williams out, which is a big blow. Kittle gave it a go. He looked okay in that game. Not really good. The Seahawks did a good job on them. The big concern is defense-wise. Everyone knows the Seahawks offense isn't great. Of course, you have Darnold when he's not hesitant throwing the ball. They have JSN. They have Walker, Charbonnet. But no one's called them necessarily a high-powered offense. So 49ers defense. And they had a ton of defensive players go down during the course of that game against the Seahawks. So hopefully they came out healthy in a sense, and they have most of those guys back. But I know a lot of their defensive players, and most of their defensive players are already like second or third string guys anyway. They're pretty thin on that end. A lot of them went down, and that's not a good look going into first round against the Eagles, right?
Yeah.
Who rested all their players.
Yeah, so we'll briefly touch on some of the noteworthy games like we talked about. The NFC South was not finalized with that Panthers-Buccaneers game. It came down to the Saints-Falcons, and Saints had Chris Olave out, so they really just didn't have any weapons. Mike's boy, Tyler Shuck, kind of didn't really have anyone to throw to other than maybe Jawan Johnson. And the Falcons were able to win kind of a just game that you were probably watching if you were a Bucs or a Panthers fan, or any fan, I guess, of the NFC South, winning 17-19, and thereby eliminating the Tampa Bay Buccaneers from the playoffs and vaulting the Carolina Panthers into the playoffs due to the 3-way tie. And how do you feel about an 8-9 team being in the playoffs? Do you think the NFL should look to make adjustments, or even just an 8-9 team hosting a playoff game?
No, I think obviously it favors teams that are not in a good division. I do like how there is an incentive to win games that are division games and not just like conference games. It's kind of like a different twist than a lot of different pro sports, and especially college football. So I think I'm fine with it. as far as like road game versus home game, yeah, you can make that argument. I mean, overall, I wouldn't be too upset about it. And
yeah, because I mean, like the college football committee, they made that adjustment. Granted, it's probably easier to make that adjustment just because there's so many different conferences, and it's hard to just say, yeah, Boise State won the Mountain West, they should host the college football playoff. Like this is all the National Football League, professional football, but it is just unfortunate that a 12-5 2 seed in their division, Rams have to go on the road to face the 8-9 Panthers because they won the division. But
yeah, I think the big thing for the NFL is like it makes those division games and maybe some like games that otherwise wouldn't be that exciting more exciting because there's more like playoff implications with it. So I mean, it is what it is. All of us know that the Rams are not going to do the same performance that they had last time against Carolina in Carolina. It'll be way different. So
it won't be pouring rain, hopefully.
Yeah. I don't think
that's what the forecast says.
I don't think the Rams have any issue with going and playing them again. Obviously they would prefer to be at home, but they'll take care of business.
Yeah, other noteworthy games. The Bengals hosted the Browns. Bengals were still playing even though they weren't playing on their starters, even though they weren't really playing for anything. And Myles Garrett in the fourth quarter, despite multiple weeks where teams have been trying to stop him from breaking the record, was able to break the single season sack record, sacking Joe Burrow and getting off on, I believe, 0.25 seconds off the line, the fastest get off recorded this season. And yeah, he's now the all-time single season sack leader with 23 sacks.
Yeah, and it's much deserving. I believe Michael Strahan, I think, made a comment. He's like, well, I did it in 16 games. I didn't need 17 games type of a thing. I think that's kind of bogus. I don't know necessarily why he said that because Myles Garrett did it in like 100 less snaps. He did in like 467 snaps versus like 600 something for Michael Strahan to get that all-time record. So yeah, I think he's well deserving. He's just rotting away in Cleveland. At least something good happens in Cleveland, and actually ended up with a win as well in Cleveland. So it's a really good way to end your season if you're a Cleveland Browns fan, as well as you get rid of Stefanski, who's been pretty bad, the head coach. But anyway, that's besides the point. And then you have Shadur, perfect timing, secure the game-winning drive, if you can, I guess, call it a game-winning drive. Basically get it to the 50-yard line so your kicker can kick like a 50-something yard field goal for the win. Yeah,
and they had a huge the Bengals had a bad kick, kind of a good kickoff return that put him already at like 45, so he needed to go like about 15 to 20 yards to set up the kicker to win the game. Yeah, I'm a big fan of the Bill Simmons podcast. Obviously subscribe to our podcast, but
not his Drake May a bit, I bet.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like he just articulates himself well, and just a good podcast to listen to if you're not listening to it already, other than our podcast, of course. But him and I think Joe House were just looking at this game prior to it happening last week, and I think the spread was like 7.5. They're like, yeah, I take it 7.5, I take it 9.5, I'd probably even take it 13.5. And they were definitely, wallowing, crying in their beers with the Browns winning. I mean, and
to be fair, if Joe Burrow didn't have that pick six, I think obviously the Bengals would have won, and I think they would have covered. So,
yeah, but I mean, it's just they announced that Zach Taylor's coming back, kind of a head scratcher, and Joe Burrow had another post-game interview, once again talking about not having fun, not being healthy, and I thought for sure they would fire Zach Taylor, but looks like they're going to keep him on. And do you think they'll look to trade Joe Burrow, or you think they're just going to run it back next season?
I mean, I don't think if I were the organization, I wouldn't trade Joe Burrow unless he clearly makes it like clear he wants to be traded. I mean, he's making all these comments until he straight up like, hey, I want to be traded somewhere. I don't think there's a reason to trade him. But honestly, if I were them, I would be interested in potentially taking offers, just because. And I also heard a podcast of, I don't know too much information about their owner, but I've heard that their owner is like one of the cheapest owners in the entire league, where they just don't really care about. Oh, lost me for a second. All right, I'm back. Be sure to like and subscribe to that little break right there. But like I was saying earlier, it's hard when you have an owner that doesn't really want to invest a ton of money back into the team. And you've kind of had a lot of the issues with contracts with players. You had the whole Hendrickson not playing for a long time because he's trying to have a contract extension or negotiation of his contract. Even their first round pick, they had trouble just the initial rookie deal contract being signed. I think there's a lot of there needs for this franchise to be as successful as it can be and be competitive in the NFL. I think something organizationally within the big ups, the heads of the organization kind of need to change. I don't necessarily think head coaching would make that much of a difference. It could make a difference, but ultimately, I think they have the pieces. They just aren't a very well-run organization, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, most definitely. My only concern being, if I was a Bengals fan, was like, you don't want a Andrew Luck situation to happen where he retires, number one, just as a Bengals fan or NFL fan in general, losing a talent like Joe Burrow just because they're sick of being injured all the time. And then with the Bengals fan, he walks or retires and you don't get anything for him. So I feel like that's even a possibility. And maybe you want to give him a chance to go to a team that's going to, invest more in the team around him, specifically the offensive line. You take calls and
Raiders. Now, yeah. I talked with Spencer about potentially. It's like, so what if the Raiders? I think obviously, I think it would have to do more. It would have to be more than just the first overall pick. Probably a couple more picks or something like that. Maybe like a Max Crosby, maybe. Offer them that for Joe Burrow, and I think that would be interesting because then that gives the ability for Cincinnati to get something in return, to be able to draft a quarterback immediately. Obviously, he's not the Joe Burrow caliber, but a franchise quarterback you can build around, and then also gives you some pieces to build around, like build up their defense again or revamp a little bit on either side of the ball.
Yeah, I mean, I think I would probably still do it. Depends on how much you're asking. We are receiving the number one pick for a reason. Although I do think the Jets are a worse team than us. Strength of schedule gives us the first round pick, and that just a top bottom 5 team. We obviously need to have a lot of places to address, and giving up, draft capital. We'd obviously get a huge upgrade with Joe Burrow, but would it necessarily be worth it if it's a similar situation to the Bengals, just not enough around him to compete for a Super Bowl? I don't know, but I'm a big Abba fan right now. Been bumping Fernando. Excited for the possibilities. That's segueing into I just want to shout out the New York Giants for beating Mike's Dallas Cowboys.
Yeah, it gives us a better pick. I'm totally okay with that.
Yeah, it was a win-win for both of us because, Dallas gets a better pick. They only played Dak Prescott the first half, and I lost like a 5-leg. Me and Mike, or I guess me more than Mike, use Fliff. The whole thing with California, it being banned, so it's kind of turned into Prize Picks. But they gave us a free $1, and I had like a 5-leg for $1 to win like $25. The last leg was maybe on me more than anything, but a Jackson Dart under 30.5 passing attempts, and he was pretty close. The game was in sight, but he decided to pass on a 3rd and 6 to get the first down, even though you're up 17. So yeah, screw Jackson Dart for that. But thank you for beating the Dallas Cowboys, because that allowed us to just play the Chiefs. Just a normal game, because we already locked up the number 1 seed. And man, it was on my 4-box TV just because I'm a fan, but
ugly game.
There's times where you can pick anytime touchdown, and there's different options. Ashton Genty, Brock Bowers, Kareem Hunt, but there's always an option for no TD scored. And it's usually like plus 500-600 easy. There was not a single touchdown scored in that game. There was 8 field goals?
Yeah, and one safety. Yeah. But
the Raiders have the number 1 pick, and we're undefeated in 2026. So I think
and honestly, this might be a really hot take, but I think if I had to choose right now for like the upcoming next season, whether to be a fan of the Raiders or the Chiefs, I think you'll have way better time being a Raiders fan, just because how bad Chris Oladikin looked is just awful, like awful, so bad. And the fact that Travis Kelce's probably going to retire, because who wants to come back to that guy playing? And who knows? I guess they'll still have Chris Jones, and I don't know how long Spagnuolo is signed for. Maybe this is the year that Spags takes a head coaching job somewhere else. I don't see any upside in this Chiefs team. I mean, even when Patrick Mahomes does come back, this team needs to be totally just rebuilt. Clip that.
Yeah, I mean, I know people were arguing that this was one of his best receiving cores in a long time, but beyond that, it was just their defense. And I think there's a case to be made that Patrick Mahomes has peaked, and he's still a top 5 quarterback, but he can no longer be considered, the best quarterback in the league. To me, that belongs to Josh Allen. Maybe we lost Mike. Kind of going through the rest of the games. Jaguars completely annihilated the Titans. With Cam Ward leaving the game early, they won 41-7, securing them the AFC South division title and the number 3 seed in the AFC. Texans were pretty frisky with the Colts. Colts starting Riley Leonard, but they were able to pull it out. Texans winning 38-30, also securing them the 5 seed. Bills beat the Jets. Mitchell Trubisky did his best Drake May impersonation last week, going 22 for 29, 259 yards, 4 touchdowns. For me, kind of hurting Drake May's MVP odds or chances, just because if you have Trubisky only throwing 7 incompletions and 4 touchdowns, Drake May having 2 incompletions and 5 touchdowns last week doesn't look as incredible. So Bills took care of business, locked up the 6th seed. Chargers lost the Broncos 19-3. Chargers pretty much punted that game. And the Broncos secure the number 1 seed, and Chargers fell down to the 7th seed. Lions, once another kind of ugly game, pulled up. I don't know who was favored in that game, but an upset win against the Bears. Bears possibly losing that game would have dropped down to the 3 seed. But the Eagles lost to the Commanders. Not sure why the Commanders were trying to win that game, hurting their draft position. So the Bears stayed at the number 2 seed. Eagles stayed at number 3 seed. And yeah, me and Mike's MVP, Matthew Stafford, pulled off a 37-20 win against the Cardinals. Rams kind of were asleep for half, if not 3/4 of the game, but finally woke up. Stafford finishing the game with 25 for 40, 259 yards passing, and 4 touchdowns. People want to knock him for being a goal line merchant, just throwing these 1 or 2 yard passes. But I was watching the game, and they had it first or second goal. They couldn't run it in. People want to act like, a 1 yard fade or 1 yard pass is easy. It's not. You have to place the ball where the defender cannot catch it and the receiver can. And yeah, I think he's the MVP. Patriots annihilated the Dolphins, but Drake May had a modest, at least statistical game. 14 of 18, 191 yards, 1 touchdown. He handed off to his running backs, at least once or twice, maybe just once on the goal line. But Dolphins were looking frisky, but they kind of just kept shooting themselves in the foot. Second half, marching down the field, possibly to tie the game, only to throw an interception. And I guess like the last game, Ravens versus Steelers, somewhat of a snooze fest, but then all of a sudden caught fire in the fourth quarter, scoring 27 points combined. And yeah, I don't know if Mike wants to, talk about how that game went down.
Yeah, I agree. It was an absolute snooze fest until that fourth quarter. I literally didn't watch the first half of it. I turned on, I think, in the third quarter. I'm like, okay, it's a somewhat close game. And then boom, touchdown after touchdown after touchdown after touchdown. And ultimately it came down to the Ravens. They just needed to get in field goal range, kick a field goal. It was in Pittsburgh, probably pretty cold, a little bit windy. I can't remember how long the field goal was. It wasn't that far away, honestly. I think it was like a
44 yards.
Yeah, 44. I mean, for an NFL kicker, that's not that far. These guys are hitting consistently from 50 plus. And Tyler Loop, man, all I know is Justin Tucker from his couch or from a massage parlor somewhere. He was just watching the game laughing when Tyler Loop just shanks it right, and game over. Ravens are out. Today it was announced that John Harbaugh is out as coach, which is deserving, his play style, what you've seen over this, specifically this season, just hasn't worked. And yeah, I don't think you can blame all of it on the kicker. Obviously, it's a big part of the game. Because I want to say, yeah, it would have been just a tie game if Chris Boswell didn't miss an extra point earlier on in the game. So it would have just sent it to overtime. But this one was for the win, which hurt a little bit more. But I think it comes down to Lamar. Just needs to play more like Lamar, like he kind of did this last fourth quarter. And the defense for the Ravens isn't as good as it has been in the past. Obviously, having Kyle Hamilton go down with a concussion is not good, ending up leaving the game. Ultimately, if they just don't give up points, and especially points to a Pittsburgh team like this who tends to struggle to score, that doesn't have DK Metcalf, that's a concern. So a lot of stuff to look at for this Ravens team. And I think,
they were saying
Pittsburgh winning. I'd rather, honestly, at this point, see Pittsburgh, even though they're awful, probably going to lose the first round, than over this Ravens team.
Yeah, I mean, I wasn't aware of John Harbaugh, and I looked at it was announced, 25 to 30 minutes ago, kind of right when we started the podcast. But yeah, that's absolutely wild. John Harbaugh out. I was telling my dad it seemed like if they didn't win that game, he would have been fired, and maybe you could have made the case for Mike Tomlin would have been fired too. Just because, I mean, during the season they were booing Mike Tomlin, saying to fire Tomlin. He kept his non-losing streak going. But yeah, 10-7, and you got to give it to the 42-year-old Rodgers just being able to will this team into the playoffs. And yeah, I would say, don't count out the Steelers. They can be a little frisky sometimes, and they're playing a Texans team where their defense is obviously incredible, but their offense is hit and miss depending on the week. And maybe Rodgers can bring some old man magic and shock the Texans at home. We'll just keep going. That's about the recap of the NFL. I can go ahead and share our current win-losses, where we're at currently with that. Let's see until it pops up. Yeah, so we hadn't shared this in a couple of weeks, but we'll give you an update on our NBA wins and losses. Mike did cut it pretty close, if not pretty neck and neck, a week or two ago, maybe 3 wins or 3 points differential. But yeah, I mean, notable things that obviously we want to talk about is the Thunder are kind of falling apart. Sam Presti might be dusting off his trade machine and looking to maybe bring a specific guy from Milwaukee down to Oklahoma City. You never know, because I think Mike said they're currently 6-6 in their last 12 games, 500.
Yep.
And I think it's pretty safe to say that they won't be competing with 73-9 Warriors for greatest win record of all time. What are your thoughts on the Thunder, and do you think they need to make a trade?
Yeah, honestly, to be fair, I haven't watched a ton of the Thunder games because honestly, they're just not very exciting to watch, especially when the spreads are like 16 or 17 points. Like, unless you're a Thunder fan, I feel like there's no reason to watch these Thunder games. And obviously, you have like the big controversial stuff from Shea and the foul baiting and stuff like that. But I think a lot of the stuff that has happened with the Thunder has gone to they're just not getting the same calls that they used to get earlier on in the season, as well as that's the one thing that's bad about. I mean, they do have a star player in Shea, and they have just a lot of like good role players around him. Essentially, the only other like maybe fringe all-star type player would probably be Jalen Williams. So the hard thing with that is when you kind of only have like one guy and like a cast of other guys, and the way that they play basketball, it's like the other guys have to get each other going and they have to feed on each other, and they usually get fed by their defense. But when their defense isn't really working like it normally does, they don't get that separation from these other teams. And you've had a couple close games, and typically in these close games, they're just not closing them out. So I think because they're so used to playing these blowout games, which you see a lot with teams that are so dominant. Whenever there is clutch situations, they don't know really how to play, and they're not as comfortable as much because they don't really play in a ton of situations like that. So I would be very surprised if Sam Presti doesn't at least feel the water and see like who's available. I think the only trade that would probably make sense would be a Giannis type trade. I don't really see how any other trade would make them like that much better other than the Giannis trade.
Yeah, makes sense. I feel like the Spurs somewhat exposed the weaknesses the Thunder have, beating them 3 times in 3 weeks. So it's left to be seen how they're going to right the ship. Other big surprises in the last couple of weeks, the Celtics have been absolutely rolling. Have won 4 straight in 8 of the last 12 and are currently the number 2 seed in a weak Eastern Conference, missing their best player, or maybe their second best player in Jason Tatum. But I know Mike wanted to talk about their current best player, their current available best player, Jaylen Brown, and how, snubbed as Eastern Conference. He definitely exacted his revenge on the Clippers the first game of January, dropping 50 points and blowing out the Clippers. But Jaylen Brown.
Yeah, Jaylen Brown. All he had to do was a little bit of salsa before the game and let Joe Mazzulla know that he wanted to guard Kawhi, and then afterwards the game, I believe he tweeted like, "I believe I'm the best like two-way player in the world," which honestly I would agree with him right now. Kawhi is a little bit too old for that, and he doesn't do as much on the defensive end as far as the two-way player as much as he has in the past. And then Giannis, of course, is usually the best two-way player in the league, but with his injury recency, he hasn't played as much as, say, a player like Jaylen Brown, and he definitely proved it against the Clippers. I think one thing is this super sustainable? It's not. I don't think it's sustainable as far as over the course of an 82-game season where you're the number one offensive option, and then you're also the number one defensive option. You just get too tired throughout an 82-game season. But as far as like a playoff run, a finals run, I think it's definitely doable. And the Celtics are a sneaky team. Of course, like you said, weak Eastern Conference, they're already at the 2 seed, far surpassing any expectations that anyone had of them, especially with Jason Tatum going down with the season-ending injury last year in the playoffs. They get Jason Tatum at the end of this playoffs. Even if they're sitting outside of the play-in game, like above it, they're very sneaky, and especially with the success they have no incentive to bring back Jason until he's like fully 100%. So I think they have a really good chance of having 100% healthy Jason Tatum going into the end of the season. I'd be scared if I were anyone else in the Eastern Conference right now. And what I've also done is I bought a little bit of Jaylen Brown MVP on Kalshi recently.
Yeah, I mean, I was thinking about it today. I was driving home from the gym, and I was like, I wonder what Jaylen Brown's odds are on Kalshi, just because recently Adam Silver enacted a 65-game played minimum rule to qualify for all awards and all NBA teams. And with Jokic getting hyperextending his knee a week or so ago and being out for a minimum of 4 weeks, that gives him little to no wiggle room to hit that 65 games. So his odds have absolutely plummeted. The Thunder, as we talked about, are reeling, and all of these awards are very narrative driven. And to have a Boston Celtics team be a top 4 seed in, albeit a weak East, but to be a top 4 seed in the East, led by Finals MVP Jaylen Brown, it's definitely a pretty good narrative.
Yep. Yeah, I bought some Jaylen Brown. I'm also holding on to some Cade Cunningham I had at the very beginning of the season. I think if Detroit finishes top 2, top 3 in the East, and obviously he's their best player, I think he can be in the conversation. I'm actually still very surprised. Of course, like the OKC Thunder should be favorites for everything. As far as like Shea being a 75% chance to win, which is like minus 335 right now, I think that is like way overpriced. I do not think he should be I think he should be the favorite. I don't think he should be that much of an overwhelming favorite. I understand why Luka is where he's at, second, being plus 669 right now. Jokic, I'm surprised he hasn't fallen down further right now. He's plus 900, but then you have Cade Cunningham at plus 1,500, 15 to 1. And then you have Jaylen Brown at 2,400, 24 to 1 to possibly win the MVP. I dumped my Victor Wembanyama for pennies on the dollar because I knew his health. He wasn't going to even have a chance in the MVP race. But I think the good value right now is, even right now, Cade Cunningham, Jaylen Brown, to win the MVP.
Yeah, most definitely. You brought up Cade Cunningham, and I just want to quickly touch on last night's game. Detroit Pistons host the New York Knicks. The Knicks were slight favorites, 1.5 point favorites, I believe I saw it at. Jaylen Brown, the Pistons, I think he'll probably be an all-star in the East this season. Center was out, and I saw that the Knicks had lost 3 straight, and I'm like, yeah, I'll play the Knicks a little bit. And boy, was I wrong. The Detroit Pistons absolutely obliterated the Knicks 121 to 90, handing them their 4th loss. And yeah, Detroit's just the number 1 seed in the East, and narrative-based. People want – the NBA is trying to build up new stars, especially American stars, and Cade Cunningham checks those boxes, so I'd have to agree. I think I'd probably – Jaylen Brown and Cade Cunningham would be interesting picks for MVP, especially if Oklahoma City continues to struggle like they have recently.
Yeah, I agree. And, I mean, I still don't think Jokic is – I mean, even if he does come back within the 4-week time period, and that's a big if, is he going to be like the same type of player? Like, obviously his game doesn't require a lot of athleticism, but I think they're just going to just grind it out until they make the postseason. And even if they're in the play-in or the 6th seed, they're just trying to survive until the postseason at this point, especially with not only his health concerns, but their whole team. So I'm actually still surprised Jokic is still so high up.
Yeah, I definitely think they're going to be extremely cautious with him because they don't really care what seed they are as long as they're healthy. I mean, we talked about the Detroit Pistons last night. The Denver Nuggets shocked the world and beat the Philadelphia 76ers in overtime, I think by 1 point. But Jamal Murray wasn't even playing. They had all 5 of their starters out, and the Denver Nuggets won. So I don't know if that's kudos to the Denver Nuggets or a black eye for the Philadelphia 76ers, who had Joel Embiid playing, so their whole team losing to the Denver Nuggets. Then Denver was home, right?
No, I want to say Philly was home. Denver was on the road. And the scary thing is Philly, I believe, I can't remember if Philly was on a back-to-back, the second end of a back-to-back, but the previous game Philly played, I think they played the Knicks, I want to say, and I want to say dominated the Knicks. Can't remember.
Yeah, they won 130-119 in New York.
Yeah. So, yeah.
So no, they played on the 3rd, so they had a day between the games and just came out super flat. So yeah, obviously this is an update to our wins and losses draft. I just wanted to briefly touch on the All-Stars as well and just show those. And I think the fans are actually getting it right. There's no Zaza Pachulia at the top of any of the West or Eastern conferences. I know the format, I think they're going to go 2 American teams, 1 international team. And I think at least looking at the top 10 of the West, I feel like all those guys are pretty locked in. Luka, Jokic, Steph, Shea, Wemby, Ant-Man, Denny Advia. I saw him last year, and that's why I was surprised in our draft when Mike picked the Portland losses so quickly. I thought they were going to be a lot better. I have a friend from Portland who was pushing and saying, they're going to be a borderline regular playoff, if not play-in team. They're still trending that way, although they're under 500. but he's been an absolute revelation for Portland, and I think that he would have my vote as an MVP, as a reserve for the West.
Yeah,
and international.
Yeah, I agree. I think that the obvious should be an MVP, or sorry, not an MVP, an all-star. It was crazy. I saw a tweet that they're talking about his contract. He has like 3 years left on his contract, and they're like each like 13 million, 14 million, maybe goes up to like 16 million at the very end. That's like a bargain of a deal for a player like him. Similar to probably what Reeves got in LA, just a bargain of a contract, and hopefully Portland, capitalizes on it, that they can build around him. I mean, they have definitely the young players as far as like big guys. I think they're pretty solid on that as long as they're healthy. It's more of like, all right, who's his kind of second scorer player or wings that he can play with?
Yeah, most definitely. Running out the top 10, of course, the King, LeBron James. It was kind of shocking to see him at the 8th in fan voting. Maybe, fans are kind of just tired of the King and want,
They are.
So it would be interesting because, I mean, as it presently, as the voting currently shows, he would not be a starter. And I don't think the coaches would vote him in as a reserve. So just Adam Silver,
they'll do like some sort of honorary like all-star.
Yeah, but it's just like he hasn't announced it's his last season. So are you going to pull that twice, or is he going to play this season and then next season announce that it's his last season and the fans will just vote him up like crazy? It's left to be seen, but definitely interesting to see him so low. Then the two stars on Houston, Kevin Durant and Alfred Şengün. And I think the East is the same thing. Giannis at the top, Brunson, Maxey, Cade, Donovan, Jaylen Brown. I guess his hair has been rubbing off on his game. And like we said, playing at an MVP level. Cat, Jalen Johnson. I know we've talked about him before on the pod. Just how Mike said he wouldn't trade him for Giannis, and the way he's been playing, it's easy to see why Mike had that opinion. I don't know if I necessarily agree with it, but he's been absolutely hooping, and I think he's definitely going to be an all-star.
Yeah, Jalen Johnson, I think MPJ should be an all-star as well. Just for the
season. The last one in the top 10 is Pascal Siakam. I think looking at it just quickly, I think I would give the nod to Ingram. Just the fact that what he's been able to do in Toronto. And Toronto is it's not top 5, a top 6 seed in the East, and he's their best player. Whereas Pascal's a great player, but they're 6-30. So I don't know if you have any other opinions or comments on.
Yeah, not that many opinions. I mean, I don't know. Ever since I've been a fan of the NBA, the All-Star game at first was like kind of cool. And of course, you kind of want your players to play in the All-Star game. But I feel like over the years, it's just kind of become more of like, it is what it is. I know for a lot of these guys, making an well, actually, I don't think All-Star teams really matter. It's more.
It counts.
Okay. Because I know for most contracts and like qualify for you for like the Supermax and stuff like that, I think it's usually all NBA teams. I think those are definitely more important than All-Star, but I don't know. For me, I've definitely lost interest over the years in the All-Star game.
Yeah, I agree. But it's still just cool to see. And I'm more interested in the reserves because the starters are a popularity contest, and reserves tells you what, the coaches are thinking in terms of, who are the most valuable players. And seeing guys like Şengün and Denny and Jalen Johnson shows that, even the fans can see that they've been hooping.
Yeah.
Cool. Want to go into forward looking, I guess, up and coming.
Yeah. So going previewing. Sorry, I must have had. No, this should be fine. We'll do previewing because then we'll recap college football at the same time. Just give me 1 second. I need to blow my nose. Oh, man. Nose been stuffed up the past couple of days. But we'll just go into college football. College football playoffs. We have the semifinals about to happen. You have the Chick-fil-A Peach Bowl, which it's Indiana versus Oregon. And then you have the Verbo Fiesta Bowl, Ole Miss versus Miami. Quick recap of that, and then we'll hop into kind of what we think for each of the games. I'm very surprised. I doubled down on Oregon played Texas Tech, and that was just they dismantled Texas Tech. Texas Tech did not look like they belonged on the field offensively with Oregon. Oregon totally just destroyed them. It's bad luck for not only Texas Tech, but the Big 12 as well, especially seeing how Texas Tech dominated the Big 12 this year. They got shut out, which is pretty sad. I don't really have, I guess, much to say in that. I know recently there's been news that they have a new quarterback. Baron Morton, I believe, is graduating. I don't know if he's going to go to the NFL or not, but they're going to get, and they received a commitment from Cincinnati transfer Brendan Sorsby. And supposedly the NIL valuation around him for 1 year is like $5 million, which is crazy. And I posed the question, I'm like, is he even like that good of a quarterback, you know? Sure, he may have done like some things here or there at Cincinnati, but I don't know. At least from what I saw from the BYU game and a few of the handful of other games I saw during the year, $5 million worth, is that really the best he can get? Texas Tech. So I don't know about that.
For sure. 23-0, not being able to put up a single point. Definitely not a good sign for the Big 12, but BYU was able to beat Georgia Tech. So that was cool. I know that was a couple weeks ago, but this Oregon team's just an absolute wagon. They're going to be playing, kind of jumping in to the next game. Alabama got absolutely trounced by Indiana. By future Raider quarterback Francisco Mendoza. Mendoza threw for 3 touchdowns, only 192 yards, but Alabama really couldn't move the ball. They got shut out in the first half, settling for just a field goal. I know Ty Simpson left the game due to an injury, but in my opinion, Alabama got somewhat lucky even just last week against Oklahoma. They were down 17-0, and Oklahoma just fell apart, and Alabama capitalized on one of the big plays was a blocked punt, setting them up for an easy touchdown. But Alabama just hasn't been the same since Saban stepped down, and I just don't know how I feel about this Kalen DeBoer as their head coach. And just NIL is kind of just no longer, like we talked about before. Alabama can't just tout, being Alabama, where kids like Sorsby is getting paid $5 million to go quarterback at Texas Tech. So, and I guess the final game, which was an absolute barn burner, Ole Miss continuing their Cinderella story, a Kiffinless Ole Miss beating Georgia 39-34.
Yeah, that one was a tough one for me to watch because I doubled down on Georgia. I bet on them like a week and a half prior to the game, and then I bet them again right before the game because the line was still 5.5. And I'm like, Georgia's going to be Georgia, like they have been all year. This should be a cakewalk for them, but no, a Kiffinless Ole Miss team, and a guy with an island country for a name ended up proving Georgia Bulldogs are not the dominant team in the SEC anymore. And honestly, what I think kind of somewhat seals like and ends the dominance of the SEC as far as like a football perspective. Of course, there's yet to be seen. Ole Miss could somehow still win the national championship, but I don't even see them making it past Miami yet to the winning the whole thing. But once again, prove people wrong. It'll be interesting to see in this next matchup because you already were down a head coach. He already left to LSU, and you had their new guy, was it Pete Golding or whatever his name is, take over. But now you have, I believe, the offensive coordinator. They're kind of doing double duty as well as a couple of the other offensive coaches. I don't think they're going to be coaching for the Fiesta Bowl against Miami, as far as I'm aware. So that definitely a cause for concern for Ole Miss.
Yeah, I know you talked about them playing Miami, and I guess we skipped over that game. That game was not a good game for myself or Mike. Ohio State, which their defense was touted as one of the greatest defenses college football has ever seen. They were comparing it to 0-1 Miami. Ended up losing to 10 seed Miami, 24-14. And I don't think Ohio State had given up more than 16 points the entire season. Ended up giving 24 to Miami. One of those, 7 of those points coming off a Julian Sain pick 6 in Miami territory. And what are your thoughts? I mean, we're down to 4 teams. Miami, obviously, going to be facing off against Ole Miss, and a rematch of the big game with Indiana versus Oregon. I guess that's jumping into a preview. Thursday, Miami will face Ole Miss. The spread is currently Miami favored by 3.5. Over under is 52.5. And I think we might have lost Mike again, but I think the Cinderella story ends this week. I think Miami, well, I guess Miami in itself is a Cinderella, but in terms of the Kiffinless Ole Miss, I think it's Miami defense that's proven against Ohio State. It's just on a different level this year. And Carson Beck, last 2 years played at Georgia. And obviously to play at Georgia, you can't be no slouch. And he's proven that he's been a good quarterback. And I would take Miami and lay the points 3.5.
Yeah, I agree. Kind of what I said earlier about the coaching situation for Ole Miss. Everything leads to Miami right here. There's some places ranking at 3. I think it's probably, I would love to get this. I doubt this goes under 3. If anything, like you said, it's going to be 3.5, possibly even 4. So yeah, I think 3 might be just the best number we get on this game.
Yeah, what about the over-under? 52.5, decent amount of points. It's like a 28-24 game. I think it goes under.
I think it could go under. You have Miami's pass rush. Clearly, that Ohio State game went under. But I'd say Ole Miss has a way better offense than Ohio State does. So, I would say it is kind of high. I would think this game would probably be around like 48 or something like that. The high 40s. So it does look a touch high. So potentially, yeah, the under. But I think I'd rather side with Miami on this one.
Great. It's going to be an absolutely great. It's not even a long weekend, but weekend of college football. Then you go into Friday. It wasn't the Big Ten championship game, but it almost felt like it when they played this season. Oregon versus Indiana, neutral site for the Chick-fil-A Peach Bowl. Current spread is Indiana favored by 3.5 with over under 46.5. Mike, who do you like and how do you like them?
I think, obviously I like Indiana to advance. Oregon is a really good team. You can't overlook them. I think Indiana is a top-tier program, and I think they're going to win the national championship. That being said, this line being set at like 3.5, 4. Anything above 3.5, so 4, 4.5, if it even gets pushed out to that much, like I would probably be on Oregon because I think this is going to definitely be a field goal game. I don't think a team is going to win by a touchdown here.
Yeah, and I think the last time they played, or this season, I thought it was a lot lower scoring, but I guess it was 30-20 Indiana, so they covered that 3.5. Obviously, it wasn't. I don't think that would spread that game, and it was. Indiana did beat them in Oregon. The comments made, yeah, it's always tough to beat the same team twice in one season. I just think this Indiana team and Mendoza, future Raider, is going to pull it out. But I do agree with Mike. 3.5 seems like it could be a lot, especially how Oregon's been playing. 46.5 over under was at 24, not even 24, 21. So it has to go over 24, 21 if you're thinking it's a 3-point game. I think I'd probably play the over, but I wouldn't be super confident in it. I'd probably be more confident in the spread.
Yeah, I would pick the over. But the thing is, if I were to pick the over, it's most likely because Indiana is just like Natty is a madman, and he's like all for just like pouring it on a team. I don't necessarily think they're going to do that to Oregon, but if they have the chance, they definitely would. He'd be the guy. It's like on the 1-yard line, you can kneel it to like end the game or like run it in for a touchdown. He'd probably run it in for a touchdown. So I would, I kind of say the over. I can't say Dan Lanning would do the same thing. So that's why it's like, if you're going to think the over, I think you'd probably pick Indiana to cover. Because at the end of the day, I think Dan Lanning just wants to win. He doesn't really care like about scoring a ton of points. But I would probably lean over as well. This could be a slinging, shootout style game.
27-24.
Yeah.
Indiana. 28-24. Yeah. So that's kind of the two semifinal games this week, and Thursday, Friday, leading us to Super Wildcard Weekend in the NFL. The playoffs bracket is set, and I think unless you want to make predictions for the entire playoffs, we'll just do the Wildcard Weekend.
Yeah, let's just do Wildcard Weekend, and there's a couple of futures that I wanted to look over as far as like Super Bowl and.
Yeah, I mean, do you want to go over those first, or just go through the games?
No, let's go through the games first. So we have LA at Carolina.
Yeah, so the Rams or the Carolina Panthers host the Los Angeles Rams at 4:30 Eastern time. The spread is currently Rams 10.5 with an over-under of 46.5. 10.5 is a lot of points, Mike. Or would you be willing to lay 10.5 with the Rams on the road?
No. Not 10.5. Oh, great. Am I lagging?
Yeah, I mean, I do agree 10.5 is a lot. The weather is projected to be 70 degrees, so probably with no rain. 10.5 is a lot if it can get down to even just a flat 10 or a 9.5, whether that's just naturally or with a teaser. I think the Rams could win by 10 points. Rams had a tough game this week at Carolina earlier this year. It was a rainy game, and Stafford threw 2 picks and had a costly fumble at the end of the game that helped the Panthers close off the win. I think they bounced back in a huge way, and I would, if I had to, I would lay the 10.5 with the Rams. And I think Mike said before he dropped, he
Okay.
disagreed. Take the Panthers plus 10.5. Is that right, Mike?
So yeah, I don't know if it's my internet or my computer, but as far as LA at Carolina, 10.5, this is one of those games where I would not be upset just to be like, oh, if it gets steamed to like 11.5, or I don't think it would get to 12.5, but like it gets steamed a little bit. Like I won't be upset if the like Rams end up blowing them out, and I'm like, oh, if I didn't bet on 10.5, oh, I didn't win. Like I don't really have any interest at this number right now because at the end of the day, I know the Rams are going to win. Whether they're going to win by margin or not, I don't know, but the Rams are going to win. So if this gets below like 9.5 or even to 9.5, I'd be more interested. But where the line's at right now, I don't really have a ton of interest.
Yeah, it's kind of the comments I made before you dropped. But going to the next game, Packers hosting the Bears hosting the Packers, excuse me. And we got a home dog with Green Bay favored by 1.5 points. Do you feel like it's a Bears nobody believes in us? Or do you think
it's actually pretty surprising. Granted, maybe it's because Green Bay just sat all their players against Minnesota this past week, and Chicago actually played their starters. I would like to be in some capacity on the Bears for this game. Also, part of me wants to say the over as well. Like over is at like 45 right now. I think both offenses are pretty tested, and they can score on each other. Both defenses aren't great. It would be interesting to see what Trayvon Diggs looks like with the starters on Green Bay. Ever since they picked him up from waivers from the Cowboys. But I'll probably play in some capacity Chicago. Right now it's like 1.5, it gets to 2.5, which I don't know if it will, maybe 3. I'd be really interested in Chicago. By this point, I think I'd probably be more interested in the over than a side on this one.
Yeah, I mean, basically what it comes down to is how do you feel about Jordan Love's health? Like he hasn't played in almost 3 weeks, and it's just like it was a concussion. And I know they're obviously sat all their starters last week just because why not? Just give them extra rest. And the Bears, they lost last week, and I think they lost even the week prior. Was that correct? I thought somebody was saying they had a 2-game losing streak. Yeah, they lost to the Vikings, or they lost to the 49ers on that tough Sunday night game. So yeah, they're reeling, but I feel like Ben Johnson and the city of Chicago is going to be fired up for this game. And I like the Bears, and I'll probably, if not take them pregame, if they go down slightly, take the Bears. I think it's not a disrespectful line because obviously the Packers are a really good team, and Jordan Love, I feel like is a better quarterback than Caleb Williams, but
I don't know. I think it's kind of disrespectful to Chicago that they're not at least like favored or even a pick 'em,
Yeah. Like I said, if it was like Green Bay 2.5 or even above 3, that would be disrespectful. But a 1.5, slightly disrespectful, but understanding that Chicago hasn't been there before with their coach and quarterback, whereas Green Bay with Matt LaFleur and Jordan Love, they've been to the playoffs multiple times and have that experience. I feel like that's where a lot of these lines are coming in, just in terms of experience. But yeah, give me the Bears money line. Moving on to Sunday. For me, I feel like this is the game of the week. Jaguars hosting the Bills, and once again, you have a home underdog. Bills favored by 1.5, over under 52.5. I think I know your answer, Mike, but who do you like?
Duval. Yeah, I'm on the Jags on this one. I haven't played them yet. I kind of want to see and hope that the Bills get steamed with money. So the number sorry, my sinuses are getting wrecked right now. But I would love for this number to get up a little bit higher, in favor of Buffalo being the favorite and Jacksonville getting a little bit more points. But I'll probably play Jacksonville in some capacity. I understand they're like similar situation to Chicago, but being at home helps a lot. They're not on the road. And then also this team, I think, is proven throughout the regular season, but as far as the playoffs, they're not proven. Contrary to a guy like Josh Allen. But I think Jags are just like overall better team. I think at this point, Trevor Lawrence is playing better than Josh Allen. I know it might be a hot take, but I think so. He has better offensive weapons. He has the better defense, even though both defenses aren't that great. And I think he has the better head coach, honestly, as well. And then you have to take into account, of course, Josh Allen didn't play last week, but still, it's like, how bad is that foot injury he had? So, yeah, home underdog. I'm all over the Jags on this one.
Yeah, I mean, when I saw the spread come out, I was shocked. Maybe not so shocked as I was with the Bears spread, but I'd probably agree reluctantly. I'd like to see Josh Allen continue to go forward. Seems like it's his year to, if not a conference championship game, Super Bowl, which he's never been to. But this is a tough pool for them. Jacksonville, I feel like, has been the hottest team the last second half of the year. And yeah, I feel like the biggest statement win was going to Denver and beating the snot out of Denver in Denver. So yeah, I would probably pick the Jags too, but Josh Allen always pulls up some heroism, especially in the fourth quarter. Over under 52.5. That is high, but I feel like it's in Jacksonville, so you should expect good weather. Don't be surprised if this game goes over. I'm not saying I'm going to take it, but 31-28, 34-31, flex within reason. Keep moving forward. Eagles host the 49ers. Eagles, I think this spread has gone up, but I could be wrong. Eagles are currently favored by 4.5. Mike, do you think Jaylen inspirational quote Hurts can beat the 49ers and cover 4.5?
I think they could. Oh, cover 4.5. I don't know about that. I trust this Philly defense a lot more than Niners defense. Obviously, Niners defense has its holes, and with a lot of those guys getting injured, I think this is a tough pull for San Francisco going to Philly. Granted, for how bad Philly's defense or offense is, their defense more than makes up for it. So I think it will be huge. I think Trent Williams will obviously try to give it a go. At least the numbers that I'm seeing, what I assume was going to be a pretty low scoring game. 4.5 is tough. 4.5, 5. I'd probably take the Niners. Actually, I don't know. This is a tough one. If anything, maybe play the under in this game. I don't know. I feel like this is kind of an ugly game. I figure it's going to be a pretty low scoring affair. The thing is, it's just like San Francisco's defense is like not very good.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like it's going to come down to who comes out and scores, or at least goes up
the ball
first.
The last possession type of.
What was that?
Like who has the last possession type of a game?
I'm saying not even last position. I'm saying, like, if I was the 49ers and I won the coin toss, maybe I'd elect to get the ball first, depending on, I mean, if Trent Williams is back, yeah, let's go out and let's establish our dominance and let's try to go score on the opening drive, just because the Eagles really, really struggle to play from behind. I think they're kind of like the Ravens or Carolina way back when. Their team is not really built to play from behind. They're going to just go up and then just keep you at bay. Nothing would make me more happy than to see the Eagles lose and have Jalen Hurts try to explain why they lost to the 49ers and lose at home nonetheless, and have the Philadelphia fans just boo the hell out of him. Yeah, if I had to pick, honestly, I think the Eagles actually do cover the 4.5, but I'm definitely pulling for the 49ers. Not because I'm a 49ers fan, just because I think Sirianni and Jalen Hurts are severely overrated and they need a piece of humble pie.
Well, the 49ers are just more like a more fun team to watch, too.
Yeah,
Philly's ugly.
Yeah, I just want to see the crash out between A.J. Brown, Jalen Hurts, Sirianni. And yeah, 49ers are a more interesting team. Moving on to the last game of the night, Sunday Night Football. New England Patriots host the LA Rams. New England's favored by 3.5. And this is a home favorite, but I feel like the spread might be a little too high, as much as I utterly despise the Los Angeles Chargers. I think the 3.5 spread is too much, and I could see the Chargers winning. I mean, I think there is a reason why they decided to sit all their starters. Number one, obviously, to give some rest to Justin Herbert with his broken left hand. But number two, I feel like this is a good matchup for the Chargers. I think I heard that what's the Chargers' biggest weakness? It's a pass or just their offensive line. And I think the Patriots are like bottom half in terms of blitz rate and successful blitz rate. So Herbert's going to have some time back there, and he has the weapons, and the weather is not going to be super snowy. It's going to be cold, but it should be clear. And I like the Chargers to cover the spread and maybe even winning.
Yeah, I agree. It'll be interesting to see who they have back in the line for them, who's going to be actually playing. I think Chargers have the better defense. I think obviously Drake May, Travion Henderson, they'll make plays. I just don't know if this Pats defense is really going to be able to stop. Actually, I take that back. The Patriots offense, how they're going to fare against a pretty tough Chargers defense. I will say the one hole that the Chargers defense does have is they typically can be susceptible to long shots, which Drake May is definitely capable of making. It's just a case of like who's able to catch those long shots. Like, I assume they're probably going to have Bowie back, but like Mac Hollins, like you don't have really a ton of great deep threats. So I think this will probably be, other than the Buffalo-Jacksonville game, I don't know, that Green Bay-Chicago game could be interesting too. But I think if I had to rank them, like Buffalo-Jacksonville is probably the most fun to watch. And then I think this one's going to be the second best wild card game, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's not a lose-lose. It's a lose-lose or even a win-win, because I think I'm going to play the Chargers. If the Chargers win, as much as I hate him, I'll make some money, as well as Drake May will prove that he's not the MVP because he really hasn't played absolutely anyone this year. And if I lose, or if the Patriots win, I'll lose. But once again, if man will make a big return, and the Chargers will continue to just be a team that can't even win a playoff game, let alone get over the hump. So that's my thesis. And finally, the last game, Steelers hosting the Texans. I think the spread has dropped at least half a point. Houston just favored by 3 points in Pittsburgh. And I think everyone was saying as much fun as the Sunday night game was last week, they said whoever wins will just be an automatic out against the Texans. I think you'd probably safe to say that, but at the same time, just don't count out Aaron Rodgers. I heard that Aaron Rodgers hasn't thrown a pick since November, so he's taking care of the ball. This Texas defense tends to cause turnovers, so that streak may be broken. But Pittsburgh is a crazy environment, and don't be surprised if the Steelers hang in there and give the Texans a run for their money.
All right. I don't know if it's my computer or my Wi-Fi, but let's just finish this up before I freeze again.
Yeah, I went over the Texans game. I think the spread started off at 3.5. It's dropped down to 3 in favor of Houston. I think the Texans should win. 3 is not a huge spread to cover, but there's just something in the air with the Steelers, especially at home. Steeler fans are crazy. They'll travel everywhere, especially and let alone just in their home stadium of Pittsburgh. DK Metcalf will be back from his 2-game suspension, and I just feel like they could be a little feisty. I think the Texans should win outright, but just don't be surprised if the Steelers hang in there.
Yeah, I mean, this would be an interesting game. You can trust the trust the Texans defense. You can't trust their offense. So, if anything, maybe under, but I don't know about this game.
Yeah, a low under 39.5. But just based off of the two teams, yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if it ended under like a 21-17 game, if that.
Yeah. All right, that's it for wild card games. I did just want to go over some interesting futures. I think I'll probably be participating in. First one is not necessarily a Super Bowl winner, but to make it to the Super Bowls, like AFC Championship winner on Kalshi. I think some interesting picks would be both of these. Houston to win the AFC Championship, so essentially just make it to the Super Bowl, plus 488. And then Jacksonville, this is the one that's even more interesting, plus 566. I would like both of those, and I'll probably take a little bit in both of those just because Houston, for their defense, I think their defense is championship caliber defense. The big question mark is obviously their offense, but I think no matter what, their defense will always keep them in the game, if not seal the game for them in these playoff games. And then Jacksonville offense, and their defense is decent as well, but their strength is definitely their offense. I think their offense is the best in the entire AFC at this point. So I know Denver is at a plus 233 to make the AFC Championship. Granted, they only really are to win the AFC Championship. Granted, they only have to win 2 games since they have the bye. I'd say those 2 AFC teams, in my opinion, are like the best odds-wise to get value for futures. And then Super Bowl winner, I'd probably only pick, in my opinion, I guess you could also pick AFC teams. In my opinion, I think the NFC team is probably going to win. But the odds are a lot juicier if you think Jacksonville or Houston. They're both at plus 10-1, plus 1,000 to win the Super Bowl, plus 1,150. But I think the next one would be the Rams, in my opinion, plus 400 to win from the NFC. And I think, like, low key, as much as I hate it, and they could potentially lose the first round, Philadelphia at a plus 809 just because of their defense, and they've done it before. that honestly wouldn't be like that bad of a pick either if you're just playing like value game for winner.
For sure. Yeah. I mean, my mindset is to just pick them to win the Super Bowl. I mean, you
And
get double the odds, and then just depending on the matchup, hedge accordingly if you really aren't that confident. But if they make it there and, maybe you just let the whole thing ride and don't hedge. But I would say pick the Super Bowl winner, get a little bit more juice, and then if they make it to the Super Bowl, go from there.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, yeah, it should be a really good week of sports. Semifinals Thursday, Friday, then the Wildcard Weekend Saturday to Monday.
Yep. So responsibly, we'll be watching. I think in the future, what I want to do, and of course, like I'm in the works of like getting my whole setup all pimped out, like custom PC, make sure I'm not freaking freezing in between the frames of our lives. Possibly doing live watch-alongs. What were your thoughts on that, B, Spencer? Because you've seen these guys do watch-alongs. They're just watching the game and they're like just on live stream.
Yeah, I think it'll definitely be interesting.
All right, so potentially y'all look out at that for the future, but yours truly. I'm freezing again, so we're going to cut off right here. See y'all next week.